That was fast. All right. Charlie and Chris.
How's it going?
June 13th?
Yeah.
June 13th, 8-balling.
I think we should go with that as the title.
I like it.
I thought about it this morning in the bathroom. I was like, that's...
8-balling.
Yeah. And I've never heard... it's not... somebody else doesn't have that title, which I like. At least that I've heard of so far.
And I like spitballing.
Yeah.
I like this guy.
Yeah.
When we're at an impasse.
Yeah.
And our wisdom is depleted.
Yeah.
Can ask the 8-ball.
For me, that's always.
Yeah. Are you enough on there? I think we might have.
Do you want me to...
Or I might have jostled the camera.
Really?
Oh, you know what? I can't. Little more. Good. I think when that brown picture's just in the frame, we're good.
Oh, okay.
So let's turn. Will you manually turn that guy off since I can't get to him with the. As long as we're fine tuning. Look at the screen. Should we have that lamp on or off? The little lamp. Just pull one of the cords.
Well, either way, I'm going to be... I kind of like it on.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I think we have a little too much light there. Maybe we'll dial that down.
Yeah. You can get... yeah, it's not a... You don't have a dimmer on there, do you?
No.
Yeah, you can figure that out. They make
It's got-
LED.
It's got compact fluorescence. But we could change the dimmable bulbs
Yeah.
and dial it in.
I love those. I have them all set up in my room, and they're like multicolor, remote, whatever.
Yeah.
We can do mood lighting.
I was going to get a lava lamp on Amazon. I forgot.
Yeah, another
Whoops.
good prop.
Uh,
Despite my, desires for props, I've yet to bring one in or decide on one.
a lava lamp.
Yeah, there you go.
You could get the lava lamp.
Yeah, I could do that.
I don't know where we'll go behind us, I think. Or in front of us. It's funny. I was looking at, I thought it was older. I watched Joe Rogan a couple episodes, a few in the last week. And his newest setup, he's got a smaller table and he's got these little tiki guys. And
Oh, he's got like everything on there, yeah.
yeah. I don't want to do that, but
Yeah.
we could put a lava lamp here or behind us or whatever.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so where were we? Charlie and I were talking about, we were proselytizing. Is that the right word?
That's above. Yeah, it sounds right.
At the kitchen table, and I said, "All right, let's just take it live."
Yeah, and I'm smarter enough than to dig my own grave when it's being recorded. I couldn't
It's okay.
offer the best argument that I could have given a week to prep like next time. But I do have a different one.
Never having had the argument I had with you last week, we had shortly after we signed off yesterday or last week, we got into a conversation that would have been worthy of a podcast.
Yeah, it was heated too.
And but how did you never having thought about it, and you're like, give me an example, the mafia. How was that?
Oh, well, yeah, but that's, you think about it. Oh, and I have a good one right now.
No,
the
but
guy.
my point is.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Never thought about it.
Okay, sure.
And you're like, where does that exist?
Yeah,
New
but the
York,
mafia's actually, I don't know.
The point
There's
was
pros,
thinking on my feet.
Yeah, right.
It got you off center.
Yeah, and part of
Quickly.
that is,
Nobody has any idea what we're talking about, so maybe we should maybe I shouldn't open my mouth.
That's all right. It's just on the topic of having a debate or a discussion of any kind.
I'm unbelievably thirsty.
It's to have somebody who is not, like you said, every idea that I have is my own almost, because that whole idea that, you don't really like to get into other people's material too much, is you don't just start with those talking points that you hear and you're like, I can defeat that in a second just because
I'm not. That's not my purpose. So.
Oh no! But that's also a consequence of that.
So if you've watched any of our podcasts so far, I've a couple issues with reading. So on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, had some time, I picked up the book. I read a few pages of that new Wright book.
Yeah.
immediately the guy, like the way the guy introduced himself, I was like, I don't want to hear this guy's babble.
Yeah.
So who's the French
Bastiat.
philosopher? Okay.
Yeah.
So he started to get into detail on like taxes and funding and things. And I read like 3 or 4 pages, and every single thing I read, I had already thought about,
Mm-hmm.
and thought about much in the way he thought about it. I didn't have the same opinion.
Sure.
And then I'm like, I'm reading this guy's babble.
Right, but that's what it is, you know. Like,
Well,
yeah.
and that gets to where
yeah.
I don't know what I want to read.
Right, you
But
have to pick somebody
it's not that.
Yeah. Yeah, I get
some
that.
of the stuff that I think I want to read, or some of the like one guy on Rogan had on, he had a couple kind of like biological sociologists, biological psychologists, and like the evolution of man and how the mind is developed and all that.
Super cool.
That was really
Yeah.
interesting.
I love that stuff, yeah.
And it wasn't, you know, even you get into certain, Marx's version of economics is sociology. A lot of economists get off the numbers, get out of like hard numbered, like calculating microeconomic stuff, like how you would run a company. Right?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
a marginal cost? You know,
Right.
the stuff you actually use math and apply to running a business.
Yeah.
These guys just delve off into, you know,
People do this.
the bourgeoisies
Yeah.
are exploiting the proletariats.
Right,
and
right.
Just a guy maybe with too much time on his hands sitting in a room figuring out everything that's fucked up with the world that really isn't as bad as
Might seem.
he has time to pretend it might be, right?
Which I might relate to that in your mind, right? Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Which I would agree with. It's fine.
So I just gotta find the right stuff. I just gotta.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, there are things I want to learn. I'm not interested in somebody else's opinion. You know, I've got a lot of opinions
Yeah.
on a lot of this stuff, especially having a degree.
So you're an empiricist.
That's what I want to read.
Okay. You enjoy people who are empiricists.
Yeah,
okay.
I liked facts and data
Yeah.
and or fact
Totally.
and data driven stuff.
Yeah. Nonfiction.
So if like some guy said, you know, this is the way the human mind has developed, and here's the science behind it, I'm in.
Yeah, I like that stuff too.
But that's, and I to people who might be listening to us and interested in where we're trying to get, those are the things. So that what I do enjoy reading, and it's always been, I would save stuff up for a year and read it on my vacation, which are, you know, again, I've told Charlie this, Omni Magazine, Popular Science, Discover, that are science related, or they might get into like, you know, we learned this about, you know, Cro-Magnon man was followed by.
Right. I would say that that's science.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff. And here's how it relates to why humans are the way they are today.
Yeah. And I would say that that is actually the most valuable stuff to read.
Yeah.
At least for stuff that you can use in human interaction, not just for yourself, but yeah, facts and data are, you can't argue by definition.
So there's so many books out there.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are interested in the drama. I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll just have to find those books.
That's, yeah.
Or articles. You know, maybe I subscribe to those magazines and learn from those. And if that's what I like reading and learning
then
from,
do it, whatever.
That's what I read.
Yeah. And that's the best part of it is that, and you might find one day you're like, all right, I'm just not going to, whatever. I'm a podcast guy, or I'm just a live life guy. But you can just do it the way you want to do it, which is nice.
Right.
Yeah.
I want the information. I want it, but I'm not going to read for the sake of reading.
Yeah.
I read Solzhenitsyn. Well, good for you. You know.
Right. Yeah. Can you apply those concepts or
Those
Yeah,
4 weekends, I was out, you know, having fun,
Doing podcasts.
living life. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so You were all fired up about potential topics, so I'm gonna let you run for a minute.
Yeah, so the first thing I wanted to mention is just something my dad said today, and it kind of clicked with me in my mind. President Trump, everybody has feelings about him. I'm not going to comment on him or whatever policies. That's not what this is about. My dad said something like, we're talking about healthcare, and he's like going through all this stuff right now, and he had a doctor's appointment yesterday. And he's like, I was dealing with the insurance guy, and then I was talking to a doctor, and he said, oh, yeah, this is because whatever, government does this and this. And it's like, God, how thankful I am that there's someone in office who isn't going to, further the boot on my neck. I'm not going to be more oppressed by something that this guy does. And he's going to turn stuff away that is potentially more oppressive to me.
Do not underestimate his ignorance. He could very well do that.
He could, but he hasn't yet, right?
Yep.
There you go. And I would say...
But who has yet in your lifetime that's materially affected something you've wanted to do one day?
I'm at a loss. I'll be honest. But
So nobody.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
sure. Yeah.
honest conversations need honest answers.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But I'm just saying...
but you're howling at the moon.
My point is not this. Trump's not a bad guy. My point is this. It's that, to me, is also a valid reason to be accepting of him.
If Trump had continued on with Mexico tariffs, he came damn close, and he may have fucked with my livelihood. My bonus next year, because we make a lot of product in Mexico.
Yeah, right.
Could be severely affected.
Yeah,
by his stupidity.
I get that.
He's an idiot. He is.
I'm going to disagree, but we don't have to have that conversation.
No, intellectually, that guy is...
I think you're absolutely wrong.
IQ challenged. He is now. Maybe he's getting old and it's pre-dementia.
We don't have to have this talk now, but I think you're being very... I think that's not an informed statement. Yeah.
You watch his stream of thought.
Yeah, I do.
If you watch his stream of thought, he's not all there.
Oh, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd say he's whatever. You could call him a mental patient. Yeah, but stupid? No, not by a long shot. Yeah.
He's at best a midwit. At best.
Potentially, sure, but I don't think that's the case. It just something set everything else aside, purely about the way he talks and like tidbit little just pieces here, things that he says that you might not catch at the first whatever, but he's undeniably an expert in the art of rivalries. He garnered all that media attention.
Undeniably, that's not a fair thing because that's your opinion.
Okay, it's my opinion that yeah, whatever. We can go on that. Whatever. It's my opinion that he's not a dumb guy. I would say that. And I think it's unfair to say that.
Or
just, yeah, you're not informed.
Why is it unfair?
Yeah, that's why I'm correcting. Not informed. An uninformed person would be more likely to say that he's stupid.
I'm highly informed. I think he's an idiot.
That statement doesn't indicate that.
That's not at all true.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Anyway,
we're just gonna have a disagreement this whole show. Let's talk about
Well, no, if it's suggested as I'm not informed.
Yeah, because it bothers me that you think he's dumb. I'm like, what? That blows my mind. Maybe like a goofball and like kind of a nut job. Yeah.
Yeah, but you think he's smart, and you're offended by my
No,
opinion.
I think he's not dumb. I think he is talented, and part of that is from at least some level of above average intelligence.
And I think he's a clown.
Okay, I agree with that too.
And below average intelligence.
Okay, well, that's where we disagree. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But you don't know, and I don't.
That's
know.
true. I don't know.
And I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you did know a minute and a half ago.
Yes, you're right. You're teaching me a lot about myself and what things I should say.
But you don't know, and I don't know.
Right.
My opinion is he's an idiot.
Yeah.
He's a clown. He's an embarrassment. He doesn't know how to carry himself. He's not a leader. These are all my opinions.
Yeah.
And I got a few more years on this earth than you.
He is sitting in the chair right now, regardless of whether or not he's figuratively a leader. He is.
Oh, he knows how to take people down.
That's part of it.
Yeah, he's good at getting in the mud. I don't think that's anything to be proud of.
Oh, I enjoy it at the very least.
It can be entertaining.
Very much so.
I don't want an entertainer in the White House.
I want a guy who's not gonna be putting stuff forward. I don't want somebody who's going to be making new stuff, like more entitlements, more spending. Let's open up a new department, more regulations, that stuff. I don't want somebody who's going to do that. And so far, he's been all right at staying in those lines.
Yeah, half the reason that hasn't happened is because he doesn't know how to get his job done.
Which is a reason to vote for him.
Because of incompetence, and it
Partly,
and it coincidentally has his unintended outcomes are your victories.
Partly, I would say.
But that's because he's incompetent, not because
at being
he's
president.
not doing something you want. He's failing at something that has a consequence that you like.
Do you have an example of something he had tried to put forward that failed that would have crossed my...
50% of his cabinet positions have never been filled. He's more than halfway through his term.
Yeah. People leave all the time, whatever. Right?
And that might, for you, be a good... And I think it's proven to be neither good nor bad for the country.
Which to me is great.
Which is kind of sad, right? So yeah. I get your point, and I don't disagree that if you look back on this, you might say, wow, we learned a lot about how unnecessarily large and maybe unnecessary, period, maybe certain cabinet appointments are, maybe even, divisions of the government are. And maybe there will be some unexpected, unintended consequences that will be good learning points from this guy. But to me, it's like, something good or something bad could come out of anything.
Yeah.
This guy to me is, almost tragic.
Okay. Well, I get that. Yeah.
But you can learn from anything.
Yeah. I just don't see how it's like. I don't see how it's that bad. How people characterize it. I don't see that he's doing any damage.
Oh well, yeah. So the left-leaning media. Sure. There's a lot of drama that is just noise and fodder.
And that's part of being the media in general. You're running a business. I get that. That's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying. But he's a clown.
I'm trying to be open-minded about it. Maybe not about the intelligence thing, but you know.
If you look at an interview with him.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Well, no, 20, 30 years ago, he's a, I think, I want to say cogent is the word I'm looking for, but
coherent?
No. He's a well-spoken, thoughtful, intelligent, reasonable man.
It's like
he's not that anymore.
Okay. That's a fair criticism. I don't know. I've only listened to a few things from old, but
he's a goofy old guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's very goofy.
I don't want a goofy old guy. Yeah, I'd rather have him in office than Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders is a goofy old guy, and Bernie Sanders
a little bit more.
Yeah,
goofy.
so Trump's done no harm yet.
That's
And-
all I'm
and-
saying.
And I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I'm amazed nothing bad has happened. Of fuck, you know, he praises Kim Jong Un. Oh my God,
Well,
that-
that last meeting wouldn't.
that offends me. Or when he was getting interviewed about the Charlottesville thing.
Okay, that was.
And he
People
was-
always cite that as his like big fuck up. But yeah.
Well, but
Yeah.
they were talking about, you know, white supremacists.
Yeah.
It was like, well, there's bad people everywhere. It's like, oh my.
So here's what's
Really?
interesting though.
But you don't say that as somebody who's.
Yes,
Yeah,
a president. Yeah, you don't say that.
I always told Sherry, the biggest job of the president, the biggest job, and this is where I was really disappointed in Barack Obama. The biggest job, the most important thing for the president to do, and this has largely to do with economic stability, but for all kinds of stuff. What he needs to do all the time, uninterrupted, is say, I'm in charge and everything's going to be okay. That's the most important function of the president. To get that message across all the time, whether he believes it or not, I'm in charge, everything's going to be okay.
You should apply.
Because, again, 2/3 of any modern economy is consumer spending. And you got to keep those people in the right place mentally. And as long as consumer confidence is at a reasonable level, the economy will just chug along. And it's my opinion, being an economist,
More
that 2.5% growth is actually a perfect number. I mean, in theory, economic growth should, you have two things that would reasonably produce economic growth: gains in productivity and increase in population. If you have economic growth that exceed those, then technically you should be approaching and ultimately getting into inflation.
Yeah.
And inflation is bad because it really destabilizes everything.
Right.
Your currency gets all fucked up, supply and demand gets all fucked up. And then you the reckoning is things got to dial back, and then you got to have recession to re-level set. And you know, you don't want this. And
Yeah.
we've been doing this,
Yeah.
and that's way better.
Yeah. I wish I was read up on this, as our last conversation on Saturday would indicate that I'm not. There's a number. Oh God, I wish I knew what it was. There's a formula for predicting that. Like if you follow these formulas, and the Fed doesn't apply it, but they've been talking about it. For annual growth over some period of time leading to inflation, and I think the number is 3%, but I could be wrong about that. And God, I shouldn't have even said anything. Now I'm going nowhere.
In terms of what the right number for
Oh, I'm sorry.
GDP growth is?
It's if from 0 to 3% growth, interest rates should be this, and I think it's 0, or I have no idea, and I'm sounding like a moron, but there's something. I'm gonna look it up and I'll bring it back to you next time. But there's a
the thing
number, and they
is,
figured it out.
We can look stuff up
Yeah.
while we do the show, but
It's in a book
Yeah.
in my house.
none of that shit's proven over time, though. That's why I got really frustrated with my degree, because as I got more higher and higher and higher, you know, and we're using like serious algebra and looking at models, guys, or you know, using calculus and you know, looking at derivatives and all these models they backed into, and we talked about
Right,
this
like you
some-
said, yeah.
you back into all these super complicated, mathematically driven models. And at the end of the day, again, you can't predict how somebody's going to feel at a given point
Yeah.
on a given day.
It's not the answer; it's just the closest answer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, no, but
that they could find out. At the
they're
time.
never close.
Right. Well, that's what they've. Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like it's kind of like investing. There's in the last finance class I took, excuse me, which is not that long ago, it's like no mutual fund has ever just beaten the average of the market indices. You should just invest in a market fund and try not to beat the market. You can't do it. Nobody's done it.
Yeah. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And there are people who will have examples and say you're fucked up because, and I don't know if Mr. Berkshire Hathaway has done it or not, but and there was one fund, the Magellan Fund, run by a guy, I think his name was Peter Lynch. I think that was the most successful mutual fund, like in the history of the country.
Wow.
But anyway, we digress. But slow positive growth, to me, is the best. You don't want like under 2%. You don't want more than 3 or 3.5%.
Right. And I think most economics textbooks will concede that. It's just how do you then execute that is the question, right?
You almost can't.
Yeah. Clear. Yeah. As they've shown, right?
Yeah, and we've had a really, really successful run since 2010.
And yeah.
And it's funny, I had lunch with a guy at work today, and he was with a family member who is a very progressive guy, and right now, at all levels, and this is not to say that income disparity and a shrinking middle class isn't a problem today in the United States and everywhere in the world. But that having been said, the standard of living across the board for everybody in the world today
It's better than it ever was.
is better than it ever was.
Right. And
if you watch the news and you look at, angry people, you'd think, and I mean, this is like in terms of poverty, hunger, crime.
right, safety.
Crime is
right,
way down.
Yeah.
Way down.
Yeah.
Even in the last 10 years. And I can't spot off statistics right now, but if you watch the news, if you watch anybody with an iPhone, remember the kid who stood his ground with the Native American who got in his face, and that whole thing was totally misrepresented.
Covington Catholic.
That, you think socially our country's coming apart at the seams, right? But it's
this
not.
Is the worst
it's
ever
not.
been. Yeah, that's God. You're so right. I love that you said that. I very much agree, and I wish I knew who the guy was who I heard this from. It's not an original thought of my own, but there's this guy who goes, I wonder if vets see what's going on and they go, thank God I did my job well. People can do this stuff and not have to worry about going to war. And they can live this ridiculous or like extravagant, progressive lives and do all this weird stuff and be different genders or go to, talk about all this. And it's like, yeah, that's a great way to look at it, is that we don't have to worry about like that kind of thing, at least right now. And it's a good time for social growth, cultural growth. And people don't always think about that.
All right, on the top of the rules list.
Did that make sense?
Don't belch when your mouth is close to the.
Did you just belch?
A little bit.
Oh, I didn't hear it. Oh, I hear it now.
Drinking carbonated water.
Gatorade.
All right, what else we got going?
Okay, so do you want to argument in favor of secession? Do you want to go there or no? Just for fun. I don't even mean.
Sure, why not?
And
so you don't feel this way?
I wrote a paper about it for one of my classes, and I was like, this is the best potential realistic scenario. Like you said, anarchy is like the romantic scenario. I would say this is a little bit more realistic, and I don't know how realistic, but at least more, because it's happened in the past. But I kind of like this idea.
Okay, so on the terms of absurdity, it's still absurd, but not
less so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Being that you've conceded to that, I will listen.
Well, thank you. There you go. That's why I conceded that. I think there should be 2, maybe 3 United States. We should just split up and go our separate ways. And there's a guy, Tom Woods, who's also an anarchist, but I don't think he will admit that because he doesn't like the message it sends off. He says, he wrote this book, and in it, he goes, people are always like, whoa, secession, because the only time it's ever been invoked in the United States history was because of slavery. And it's like, okay, no, I don't want slavery, but let's just split up. Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Like, why bother staying together? I'm voting against,
For the kids.
for the kids.
So
Not good enough.
what specific problem, name a specific problem that's harming somebody that this would specifically solve, that would be worth risking what have always proven to be catastrophic and most oftentimes very, very deadly unintended consequences of huge social and political change.
Right.
What are the problems? What are people suffering from right now that this would solve immediately?
The first thing I'd ask you to do for me to answer that is define harm, right? And then I want to.
No, it's your argument.
No, you asked me a question, and in a word, you use the word harm, and I'd like to know what you mean by that.
Anything negative that's impacting somebody's life.
Oh, okay, yeah. Just paying taxes for certain things, like just that enough. That is enough to me. Certain social
what have you been denied in, say, the last 6 months?
No, not denied.
As a consequence of the huge taxes you're paying.
I don't pay huge taxes. I don't live in a gigantic.
Okay, so you don't have any real problem.
No, but I want to live in a country where they follow the rules that I prefer, as opposed to following rules that someone else prefers, like someone, Republican or Democrat for that matter.
But the thing is, here's what you're doing. You're doing exactly what you would tell a communist or a Marxist he's all fucked up about, which is you do change like this and bad shit happens.
And the caveat is...
And so the one secession that we saw resulted in more
the largest
human casualties
for America ever. Yeah. That was cogent. Yeah, you're right. And that's the one thing you say is whatever. If one side has a maximus goal, which I would say is almost inevitable, you can't do it peacefully with a lack of death or violence, which is ideal. You don't want people to die. I don't want war. I'm not advocating for that at all. But I don't see any problem being like, hey, I like this stuff. You like different stuff. Why don't we just have two things and then go on living peacefully together?
But you don't want together. You want separate.
Yeah, but I don't mean like. I mean peacefully as in we can be allies. Let's just not, let's not like go to war with each other. Let's be friends. Interact, do trade.
So what do you want? Why don't you just move someplace else?
That's fair. I don't know where I would move. I've never thought about that. That thought has crossed my mind. I've never researched where I would move if I wanted to, but I think America is the best country on earth so far.
So then why do you want to turn it into 3 non-Americas?
I think it could be better.
Why don't we improve what exists?
I think that's impossible. And I think that's also inevitable.
Okay. If you think improving something that's good is impossible, creating 3 unknown entities is even, impossible is infinity. So you can't, it's not more, it's more problematic.
Without changing it. Not impossible forever.
Here, I'll liken it to this.
In our current situation.
My hand's sore. So just whatever sore, rather than fix your hand, just cut it off above where the pain is.
Kind of, yeah. But, I don't consider it. Can I paint a picture for you?
Paint away.
Republicans and Democrats right now, not all of them, granted, some of them don't give a shit what's going on. But if you're active in the political scene, I'd say a lot of them hate each other. And the realm of civil discourse is just vanished. It doesn't exist anymore. You know, if you're a Republican or whatever, you voted for Trump, you're a racist in this stuff. And if you're a Democrat who wants, you know, hey, whatever, my kid is transgender, I want you, then you think that person's a abusive parent or whatever, you know, the case is. And those lifestyle choices just seem to coincide with political siding, you know, political grouping. You know, they team up. There's two tribes. Why not just have a system where your side is the only side that's involved in the decision making?
Because you'd have a bad country. If you just said, you know what, let's have Republicans move east of the Mississippi, and Democrats move west of the Mississippi,
Right.
and divide this place up into two countries.
I never thought
You'd
of that.
have two really, really, really fucked up countries.
You think because
Part of what's good about
you're kept in check by your opponent. That's
absolutely.
fair. Yeah, that's fair. But there's infighting, you know, and you're right.
Yeah,
It's not to the same degree.
And your dad, I think, would agree with this.
Yeah,
Part of what's good about gridlock in Washington is nothing changes.
that's what I like about. That's what we were just talking about with.
Yeah, but what you're saying is the same thing. You got two people that are fundamentally opposed on the exact same things, to the extent that, you know, and your dad will say this all day long. I'm going to go to Washington and write new laws. We don't need more laws.
Right. I want to take stuff
Right.
away, but part of it could be taking stuff away.
I don't know that we need less laws.
Sorry, I want to take stuff away.
But well, that's great. But you haven't identified a specific problem yet that needs solving. And that's what makes a good leader and a good agent of change, which is to say, you know what, I've identified a problem, I've identified a solution, let's do this. And then you develop a track record of problem solving. And if you're smart, you start off small, then you hone your skills, right? Be to your craft. And then you go on to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
All right.
But starting fundamentally and being Karl Marx and being Stalin, who buys into this fucking Looney Tunes guy, you know, and ultimately, you know, Marx and Lenin, how many people did they kill? Tens of millions, right?
26 million. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's,
Yeah. And that's, you know, whatever. I would say that my starting point's different than theirs. My first intention is to cause nobody harm, but you know, back to the picking a thing, whatever not just fundamentals, like a actual thing. I would say whatever, deficit spending, and that's a valid thing. Like, you can't tell me that that's not a valid argument.
what
That
that's
deficit
bad.
spending is a problem. Yeah.
It's ultimately it's bad. Yes.
And who's kind of
I would agree. Well, yeah. Isn't Trump as much in the hole as any other president?
Mm-hmm.
But he's your man.
He's not my man. I just like him better than anything else that I've been offered.
How many presidents have you voted for in your lifetime?
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
So start racking them up before you start spouting off.
You know, Chris, you're not young enough to be innovative. You'd have no idea what it's like to have new ideas. You can't have new ideas. You're an old guy. You can't have new ideas. See what I'm saying? Yeah. But whatever, you're not wrong. That's also fair. I will give you that. But yeah, seriously, let's go down the deficit spending path. Are you telling me that's not a valid thing
I
to be?
just said to you, it's not
right.
good.
So, and then
But
from there, you don't have to spend money on so much stuff. If you just rule out that, you're like, yeah, we're just kind of doing our own thing now. We figured out what we want, and you guys have your thing, which is great. And the people who live here that like that can do that. And then
you're speaking in too much in hypotheticals.
I think I'm just simplifying, but maybe that's. Well, yeah, this is all hypothetical.
But the best thing is, you know, so if you're howling at the moon about institutional oppression, again, I would say, tell me how you've been oppressed. Identify the problem. Be specific. Tell me how it's affected you personally, and not you, Charlie Houston, but whoever's complaining. And institutional oppression, I would say, is probably,
At an all-time low.
well, no, probably most undoubtedly wrong. So show me your problem, and I'm more than confident that I would stand alongside you and fight with you for what's right.
Right, and I say that too when people point out things that don't really matter. That's right.
But secession's good.
No, we're having a hypothetical discussion.
Let's secede. No, right, but at some point you need to like build a hypothetical model based on statistics and facts and data, and say, here's problems, and here's specifically how it would be solved, and here's how we get there without war, death, violence, and it's again, the United States of America, it's a good place, right?
I agree.
So, having an answer that says, you know what, if you're left of center, just move to California, and then California you secede, and I just won't go there anymore. That's
right. They had that whole thing. It was even they even voted on it. They have a referendum.
That's part of what's good about America.
What? That you can't leave? Perpetual union?
No, the variety.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Because what you're kind of saying is I don't want free. I want separate but cordial. If you want to be something I'm not for, not only do I not want you my neighbor, I don't want you in my neighborhood. I don't want you in my community.
No.
I don't even want you in my country.
No. I'm fine with being your neighbor. Just don't make me live under the stupid shit that you decide is valid of, regulating it from the government and agency. It's like, I'll be your neighbor. That's fine. And that technology doesn't exist, so we can't do that way.
But what specifically are you?
My philosophy, and you might call this childish or whatever, is it shouldn't matter what thing to someone who's not me. It should be up to me.
But if you start trying to solve problems
that don't exist,
you're just destroying for the sake of destruction.
I think that's what's going on right now with deficit spending. Have about that? They're just they're just wasting money on stuff that I think
you can balance the budget and dig it out of the hole. It's happened.
When have they ever not, except for the government shutdown, which
Ronald Reagan was one of the worst deficit spenders ever. Bill Clinton brought us back to a balanced budget.
I'm not defending anybody here.
No, I'm just saying that things can get fixed.
Yeah,
right?
they can.
Right?
Yeah.
So a Republican took us into a hole, and he's most modern, certainly all modern day Republicans and conservatives would say he's the best president we've had maybe ever, right?
Yeah.
And there were prosperous times under him, and then, things got a little sideways with what, Bush 41, and then Clinton, despite my absolute what's the word, disdain for that family.
Sure.
Was actually a pretty good president in terms of the country doing well.
And I wasn't alive, but that's what I've...
And balance the budget.
Yeah, which is great. That should be the number one goal to me.
So, the number one goal of the president is, I'm in charge, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And not do a lot, right? We don't need to send people to Washington to fix what ain't broken. And then the laws we have that should go away, get rid of them. The laws that we have that are good, make them better. We don't want bigger government, but I don't know that we know that we need smaller government. You just start fixing things slowly and incrementally is the way to the well. Every social and political experiment that has been launched on a grand scale has ended in catastrophe.
Okay, I don't know. I don't have evidence of that.
Well, Russia, China, Venezuela, Argentina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I see what you're saying. Sorry. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Let me ask you something though. You think that it's just like there's no making it better at all?
I think throwing a grenade into a foxhole kills soldiers.
Yeah. I don't consider it a grenade. I would hope that it gets executed in a delicate manner and like with whatever. 20 years down the line, let's figure all this shit out. We got a deadline. Let's go. Boom. But I guess giving the government a deadline isn't always the best thing. But
well, the government won't do that, right? That's the way you get shit done in personal lives and households and in businesses. Unfortunately, our government won't roll that way. One thing that just makes me want to puke is liberal or conservative, Republican or Democrat. I'm for education. Education in America, and I'm no expert on it, but from where I sit, it hasn't gotten better in my lifetime. Public education has gotten worse. And everybody says, I'm going to be, the next education president or governor or whatever. And it's a talking point for an election, and then they do nothing about it. And I will say, I don't care for Gretchen Whitmer, but she complained about the roads, and she proposed a solution. People lost their fucking minds.
Fix the damn roads.
Right, right. And it's so funny. So my concentration in economics, because unfortunately they were the only classes I could get that allowed me to have a concentration my senior year, was public finance. And public finance is basically how you fund a government. So most of it's like tax theory.
And that's the Republican terminology. They'll say finance, but...
So anyway, the most logical way to pay for roads is a gas tax, because you pay per mile.
Does it make sense to send 22 cents of that 45 cents per gallon that you are spending extra to some other fund to be spent on something else?
No, I'm just saying that the most logical and equitable way is a gas tax.
Pay per use, right.
Yeah.
And I don't right now see any problem with that. Yeah, but I read the plan, and it was something like half of that money goes towards something else.
I wasn't aware of it. I mean,
No, I'm not accusing you of that.
Because 45 cents wasn't going to fly anyway, so that's
insane.
Yeah.
That's freaking ridiculous. 45 cents?
It was too big a number. Right. So I don't know what she was thinking. But again, I used to tell Sherry, it needs to be a gas tax. It's the most equitable way. So trucks drive huge miles and burn up tons of gas, and they are the worst offenders of beating up Michigan roads.
Right.
Unless and then there's people, and they say, well, it's in. So, it is a regressive tax, which means
right.
Technically, it
affects the poor more so than it does the rich, right?
Yes. That being said, you drive a lot, you pay.
How about instead of a gas tax, like you put one of those fast pass things in your car, and it's like it tags you for actual use? Because I buy gas to fill up my chainsaw and my lawnmower and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's a drop in the bucket. The easiest and quickest way is just tax gas. It takes no time. You just go to all the gas stations, you say, just add 10 cents and send us a check. It's really easy to implement.
No, that's more reasonable.
And it's very equitable. Then you start making stickers and putting in machines, and there's infrastructure costs and all that, and just say, hey, gas station owners, add a dime and write us a check.
Yeah.
It's real easy to do.
I will admit, if you're talking purely public finance, that does make sense. And that's right. Well, that's the obvious answer. You can't go wrong. But I just, from a moral standpoint, can't.
Yeah, but you got to pay for shit.
Yeah.
You got to pay for shit.
Yeah.
And I'm not for privatization of roads. It won't work.
Right. That's fine. And yeah, in our
I've
current
had this-
standing, what do you? Yeah.
So, it's the way to get there. I mean, taxes are necessary. We don't like them, but they're necessary. If you attempt to
run a government, yeah.
to provide wholesale solutions to large masses of people,
Yeah, sure.
it's
I'm biting
we
my
can have
tongue.
this argument another day, but certain things need to be publicly funded,
Yeah.
and we got something in place. And starting from scratch, I mean, if you want to start a country, go do it.
Right. Was it Lieberland? Yeah, I should go live in Lieberland.
Where's
There's
Lieberland?
two American dudes bought some chunk of whatever. I kind of forget where. I think like I was about to say in the Orient. No, it's like I want to say Eastern Europe, but I don't know. It could be somewhere else. And it's like this little small piece of land they bought from some government. They convinced whatever, and they're like starting their own nation. It's small, but it's like it's their own thing. It's like we got our own spot now. We're not under anybody's thumb.
Good for them.
And I think they sold out of all. It was two like libertarian dudes, and they sold out all the spots they had for people.
Huh.
Yeah, I should look into that. I haven't.
But how big? Like 100 square miles, 1,000 square
No,
miles?
not that big.
Oh, tiny.
Yeah, like
It's like a neighborhood,
maybe like yeah,
small city.
yeah, small city. Yeah, but you know, at least they're doing something. I admire that.
Yeah.
Whether it's stupid and small scale, that's fine.
Yeah, what
But-
they'll probably do ultimately, if you went there, they're probably if they're in the middle of a whole bunch of bigger countries, they're relying on infrastructure. If it's a 10 by 10 area, they're not
Yeah.
going to need any freeways. They're going to
Well,
rely
right.
on
It's not a massive
infrastructure that's already established around them, that's already been paid for in a way that you don't approve of.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's fair.
So,
yeah. And I think
you
they're
know who
doing
else did?
vertical, which is not really.
The Family Guy did that too in the cartoon.
Started his own. Oh yeah, he did, and he invaded Quagmire's pool or something, right? Or Stanley.
I don't. What's the guy's name?
I don't know. I don't watch that show,
Really?
but I saw that episode.
It's a funny show.
Yeah, it's Peterland or something, right?
Pretoria.
I think it was Peterland. It was very simple, and the flag was like his face.
Yeah, I think it was Pretoria, but whatever. Whatever. So it can work in a cartoon for part of the cartoon. I think it ended badly for him. I forget.
They invaded, I think, and the army shut up. That reminds me, this is a tangent, and it's a lighter note. My friend, I'm not going to name him, thinks that he has this philosophy of life, and I don't think it's just like a high, oh, dude, think about this. One of those. I don't think it's that. I think it's like he believes this. Anything that you can think of is inevitable or can like create in a TV series or whatever. He's like, that stuff happens, dude. He's like, that will happen someday.
Explain that again.
He thinks that if you can think of it, and just for example, we're talking about like, let's just say extremely sci-fi or mystical television / movies or books or whatever. He thinks that if you can think about it, it can happen in real life.
Yeah, was he on LSD at the time?
That's what worries me. He was sober as a judge.
Yeah, that can't happen.
I just was like, dude, what? I'm like, I really like you as a person, but what? You're thinking that?
Like if he flaps his arms really, really, really hard, if you really believe you can fly, it'll make you fly.
No, not like that. But Laney has a friend like that.
This is like a Christmas special movie.
Yeah.
If you truly believe it, it can be.
Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, Laney has a friend like that. Oh God, so stupid. She's a great gal. But yeah, my buddy, I was just like, dude, are you serious? And it wasn't like that. It was just like, it will happen at some point in the future. I'm like, no. Harry Potter will never happen. Will never, ever
Did you
happen.
ask him for case in point?
I did. And he just said, I don't know, dude. I just believe. He's like, yeah, It's kind of
See,
ridiculous, but
that's,
I believe it. And I'm like, whatever, that's fine. You believe that shit. I'm not going to argue with you
see,
about it.
that's where I gotta pin people down and say, give me one example. Give me one example of
Yeah.
something you believe, of something that you, because if he won't give you an example, then to me it's evidence he doesn't completely buy it himself.
I just think that's evidence that he doesn't know exactly what he's talking about. Not necessarily that he's not bought into it, but just that he's not well read on the subject. And with that, there is
And you
no
don't
example.
even need to
but,
be well read. You can have your own idea.
but if you
just
don't have any
think it
data,
through.
you can't
Yeah, think
come
it
up with
through.
a. You can't. Well, yeah, but if you have no data in a question like that, for instance, if you have no examples in a question that requires examples, you're not getting anywhere.
But
Yeah.
you don't even need that necessarily. He doesn't even have a hypothesis to at least have a decent conversation. So tell me more. I don't have more.
Dude, one day, Dragon Tales, they're gonna be selling rides. I'd be like, what? What are you talking about?
Did he say
no,
that?
No, I'm just
Okay.
eight balling, but yeah.
Look at our guys, our audience.
Wow, we're that boring. All the dogs are sleeping.
I think they're just content.
It's very cute.
It is.
Yeah.
Um.
Oh, you want to jump again?
Sure.
Did you see? My dad told me about this when I was on my way out. There was those 2 tankers in Iran got attacked.
Did not see that. I've seen no
Oh my
news
gosh.
today.
I've been staying out of it kind of lately, just for mental health. But what's going on? That's wild. 2 tankers got hit. One of them didn't sink. The other one caught on fire.
By pirates?
Well, here's what's interesting is both of the impact spots were on the same side. I think it was starboard engine room at or below the waterline, which to what anybody who knows at least a little bit about military naval tactics, that's very much a military thing. And you need high tech and expensive tech to execute that.
So it's a torpedo.
That's what they're saying. And they also said they found a Lindsat mine, which is a magnetic mine. You know, it's like a submarine safeguard.
These
I think.
were oil tankers
Yeah, a Norwegian, but they're chartered by a Taiwanese
for
company.
the purpose of hijacking them.
No, to sink them.
Oh,
They're going through that Strait of, what is it, Hormuz? I'm sorry, I don't know the name. And our guys, we have a fleet just sitting right around there, hanging out there.
sneaky pirates.
Yeah, but they're saying the chemical analysis, or they're going to run it. But this happened a week ago or a month ago, the same thing. And they ran the chemical analysis that time. And they're like, it was Iran. You know, 2 tankers blow up. What's the result of that? You know, oil price goes up.
Yeah, I don't know if a tanker can hold enough to do anything other than shock the market for a couple of days. But
It's just, and like you said, I'm the president and, you know, everything's fine. That's very much the opposite. Yeah.
yeah,
It's speculation. But I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I'm like, what the
You're on the Middle East. You brought up the president. I'm in charge. Everything's going to be okay. So you guess what? My biggest disappointment in Barack Obama was. You'll never guess. It has to do with the Middle East. It has to do with conflict.
I can tell you what, and I just think this is a funny answer. I was reading an article about him in an interview. What was your greatest regret of your presidency? And it was about this Middle East conflict. He said that we didn't stick around in Yemen and help out. Or, wait, where was it? Lebanon. Where was Gaddafi?
He was Libya.
Libya, sorry. We didn't stick around in Libya and help out after we took care of that. And I'm like, that's your biggest regret? Anyway, what was your...
My biggest disappointment in him was Syria.
Oh, yeah.
Assad was launching chemical weapons, and the insurgency was, you know, they were doing their harm. At that point, the casualties that were rolled up, when I did my research to make sure I was being pissed off from an informed perspective, is that the insurgency had killed just as many of the National Army as the National had killed of the insurgency, which surprised the shit out of me.
Tit for tat.
So, well, no, just that the insurgency was that effective.
Oh.
And at that
okay.
point, it was like 50,000 each in the last year or something like that. Like, wow.
Shit. Wow.
Yeah, it was big. So
Wow. Yeah.
when chemical weapons were bombs were being dropped from planes, and it was fucking ugly. I would have established a no-fly zone. I would have gone in there. I'd have taken a carrier. I'd established a no-fly zone. I'd said, if you guys want to fucking shoot each other with guns in the streets, and I'm limiting this to bullets, but civilian casualties are so high and so fucking brutal.
It's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to shoot at each other conventionally, you want to throw hand grenades and mortars and conventional,
It can even be big bullets, right?
Right.
Out of a tank. Yeah.
Right. Tanks, whatever. Fine, I'll do that. But I'm not going to watch this fucking barbarism.
Yeah.
So I would have established a no-fly zone. Said, you know what? Do whatever you want to each other on the ground, but I'm not going to watch this. This ain't going to happen on my watch.
That's interesting. And when the same and the chemical weapons happened when Trump was in office, I forget when that was, but I remember a lot about it. The people were saying that that was Obama's thing, the line in the sand.
That what I'm talking about is exactly that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he drew his red line. I don't know what the fuck red line. I'm drawing a red line in the sand. What does that mean?
Yeah.
So then Assad crossed it, and he did nothing. Oh, really, man?
That makes you look.
And I don't know what your opinion is. We have not had a conversation about this, but I do believe right now, I think being the world's policeman is a responsibility that the United States has always espoused, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's the right thing. Not forever, but to me, fucked up times call for fucked up measures.
Okay, and that's that's a totally fair opinion to have. I totally see the rationale for that. I just, like my own personal philosophy, like I just condoning that is hard for me. And whatever that means to you, like pussy, whatever, but like don't go kill other people if you're going to be doing it. But I do see that if you're just saying, hey, I'm going to park here and we will shoot you out of the sky. I do not care. Like, we're going to blow you out of the sky if you violate this, do this stuff. That's, you're saving civilians, and that's, honorable work. But I don't know if we should be going and getting involved in stuff like that. Even though I do see it as
we wouldn't be in the war.
Right.
We're not picking a side.
Right.
Right? Because Russia was providing Assad with arms, and I'm not sure if we were helping arm the insurgency, but whatever. The no-fly zone was just to keep civilian casualties to a minimum.
Right.
Especially they were dropping bombs of like chlorine bleach.
Yeah, I saw
this. Just seeing the little kids burned up, and it was bad news.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what? I will say I condone that. I can sanction that. Even what Trump did, how he reacted, that's fine too. It was like he launched 54 Tomahawk missiles and 2/3 of them hit their mark or something. I forget what the number
was.
was.
Like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
I think they even gave him a heads up. They're like, "Hey, Russia, we're going to be blowing up this airfield. If you want to get all your guys out of there."
Yep.
Yeah. But just to send a message, we're going to be. And the video of that.
I didn't see it.
There's not a lot of good, high quality military conflict video out there, but that's a good one. Just like seeing these missiles being launched from this
shock and awe.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. And you don't actually see the impacts, but they show the aftermath, and it's like, damn, nice. But yeah, that big, what is that? The neocons, they like that stuff. The American power all over, 400 bases over the world and stuff like that. Yeah. And when they dropped the Moab too, that video was, whoa. The dude who was recording it from this whatever high rise something, at least semi skyscraper. It was like it was right there. That must have been the scariest thing.
I don't actually even remember what you're talking about.
Oh, Trump dropped a Moab in Syria, I think, Iran. I don't know where it was, but it basically was like a we're just doing this to show, hey, we're gonna do this. A Moab is the largest conventional bomb that was ever made.
Is that the bunker buster? Is that what?
Yeah, I think it's like a cave buster.
I
though.
remember that. Yeah.
Huge, gigantic.
Yeah, Moab it's a very crude acronym, right? And
Mother of all bombs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, but the alternative is very crude. Yeah. And the video is cool. So if anything, I guess I can condone it for my own personal entertainment as well as the safety of civilians. That's fine too.
That's a little barbaric, but okay.
I'm just joking, but yeah. Did I tell you this? We have this discussion about like preserving nature.
No,
I have the same philosophy about like saving nature. It's like, yeah, I want to preserve nature just because I love those like documentaries like Blue Planet or whatever.
Okay.
And
Planet Earth.
Yeah, and if you kill that stuff, I can't see it at night at Netflix when I'm trying to watch it. So
one of Rogan's guests, this was so good, and he framed it so well. He was a PhD in something, and they got onto climate change, and I don't think this guy. I forget what his area of expertise and education was, but he was well versed in everything, and one of the things people forget is that we are part of the world's ecology.
Right, the biosphere, biodome, what is it called? I forget
the biosphere,
yeah.
I think. So,
biosphere, yeah.
Yeah, so I believe that we contribute to global warming. I think to say we don't contribute to it in a way that's significant is naive. Substantiating it over history, I think, is probably scientifically very challenging because it's such a small snippet in time based on huge climatological changes over vast periods. But there were two really interesting points. And people are like, oh, the polar bears.
Don't they have the highest record numbers right now?
I don't know. But the guy was like, right now, what are there, 7 billion people on the planet?
A little plus, but yeah.
Okay, so 7 billion people who need to eat, who need, in cold climates need to be kept warm, right? And we've established this, and maybe we went too fast and maybe did a little too much damage, but the degree to which we use fossil fuels. Like I drive to and from work 42 miles round trip every day in a car alone, right?
Yeah.
I can't stop that.
Right.
Is it the best way to
perhaps not
for our carbon footprint to manage things? I would say definitely not. But what the fuck am I going to do, right?
I don't have an opinion on this.
So I'll give up my house. I'll give up everything, and I'll fucking freeze to death.
Yeah,
sorry.
What?
So we're part of the biosphere, and we need to continue to exist.
Right.
And so what's done is done, and it would be good to get better, right?
Yeah.
That having said, and another interesting thing. So if polar bears get taken out as a result of this,
isn't that evolution?
Right.
Natural selection, but yeah.
It's something that might happen. And they're like, oh, by the way, polar bears are one of the most violent mammals on the planet. They said if you want to see, they likened it to, did you see the first Alien movie?
Oh my God.
Where the little thing comes out of the guy's gut and he just runs around and he's eating everything. They're like, look at a baby polar bear. Anyway, so he's like, so if polar bears get taken out, the polar bears, the polar bears. Then maybe polar bears get taken out and something will fill in their place. So here was another interesting statistic that came out of that. 90% of everything that's ever existed is extinct.
Yeah.
You knew that?
Yes, and
So,
I
mean,
cite that, but
the world changes.
right.
So we fucked it up a little. Let's get better. And so shit changes.
Right. Is it terrible that Ardipithecus ramidus died out and that we're now here, sixth ancestral humanoid, whatever, down the line, here we are, Homo sapiens sapien. Yeah. Or whatever, Australopithecus. Yeah.
Right. And did, was he, who followed him?
I think it was Australopithecines. And then it went Homo habilis, Homo
erectus,
and then Homo sapien, and then Homo sapiens sapien.
Okay, so, and did each one of those iterations of primates wore the other one out?
No, I don't think so. And there's only a little bit of overlap between each of those. And there's there's Neanderthals in there too, and there's another thing called the Denisovan, and another one, but I forget. And it's like there's interbreeding, which means at least some stability, or maybe it was forced interbreeding. Never mind. But
hey, she looks kind of weird, but she's kind of hot.
Hey, what's up with that forehead? Oh, whatever. Yeah, I have the Neanderthal forehead. It's good for headbutts in a fight.
Okay.
I have no evidence to back that up.
The recessed eyes.
What?
The recessed eyes.
Yeah.
The protruding brow.
Yeah, it's good for if blade comes down right. Save the eyes. But yeah, it's the same thing. Is it bad that they died? It is what it is. That's how I feel about it.
The planet goes through change.
And I don't. This is one of the issues that I don't really have an opinion on. Climate change. I just don't. I don't have the energy for that, and I am not, and refuse to become a climate scientist. So whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think all the shit we do is contributing to global warming? Maybe at least a little.
From an uninformed position, yeah.
I'm no expert.
Right.
I think we're contributing to it.
Yeah, sure. So
I
would say that
this
too.
much or this much. I have no idea. And I'm not sure anybody can substantiate that right now because the snapshot in time is so short.
Right. It's right. Industrial Revolution to now. Wow, how many years is that? Yeah. Can we fuck it all up in like that? Maybe. But
I'll tell you one thing I firmly believe in. I don't have to tell you this stuff.
Yeah.
Our water's poison. Pesticides, they don't there's no natural elimination of all the shit we put in the water. And I'm convinced I just watched somebody die because of it.
Oh shit. Oh. Wow. I've never even delved into that. I've never even heard that before.
Well, not just so I lost the person most close to me very recently to ALS. And ALS is, all signs are pointing towards environmental issues. And there are super, super, super high correlations, the highest of which are pesticides and what's pesticides. And the correlation is highest in people who that's their profession.
Oh.
But also almost as high for people who like garden and do other the word escapes me. But anyway, who do it as a hobby as well. So that's the high and then there's other things, but
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and there's a finite amount of water on the planet, and everything. You fertilize your lawn, and then you water it.
Yeah, and then it goes somewhere. Yeah,
it goes straight to, especially if you live in Michigan.
Yeah,
we re-drink the shit we put in our water probably quicker than everybody who drinks off the Great Lakes.
Yeah,
we re-drink the shit we put in the water very, very, very quickly.
I remember learning that in second grade about the Rouge River. I don't know why that stuck, but Yeah, it was one of the things they talked about. Was like, if you use certain types of stuff, it just drains off into the Rouge River and it gets into all this. Yeah, and it was like, at that time there was some environmental. They had like they're like, this is a protected river because it's so polluted.
It was really, really, really bad, like 40, 50 years ago. There were steel mills on it, and they were just like...
Oh, my gosh. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And that's interesting. In East Jordan, there's the Ironton Ironworks.
East Jordan Ironworks, yeah.
East Jordan Ironworks, right.
For people who don't know, they are, or were, and maybe still are, the largest producer of manhole covers in the world.
Yeah. You can go to Japan and be like, oh, wow, East Jordan Ironworks.
And they're in northern Michigan, on a branch of a beautiful lake called Lake Charlevoix.
I think it was voted the best place to live in Michigan.
Really?
Yeah, a few years in a row. But anyway, the point is they're old. They just built a new factory that's going to be almost 100% automated. The old factory was literally right on Lake Charlevoix. There's parts of it where it's like clearly meant for dumping stuff into it. And I'm like, how do they just get away with that? I don't get, what do you just dump it?
Well, guess what? Trump lifted the ban on
environmental dumping or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I have faith in humanity that people will boycott those.
Don't.
Oh. Okay, I won't.
Don't. I'll just leave it at that.
It's probably smart.
Well, it's sad. Don't believe for a minute that people do the right thing. They do the easy thing. It's really sad.
Yeah. And Roundup.
They're still advertising on TV.
It's like the most toxic substance known to man or something now. Well, that's an exaggeration, of course, but
it's bad stuff.
There's a bucket of it sitting in my shed.
They're still advertising on TV.
How the who would still buy it? Even like Home Depot, they'd be like, "No, sorry, we're not selling that anymore." It gets
back to what I just told you. People do what's easy.
Yeah, that's fair.
People do what's easy. People are... Your dad and I have had this conversation, and I don't know where this quote came from, but people will do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. Have you heard that from him? It's really sad. People will do far more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. In other words, they'll do what's easy. They'll sit and eat chips and watch NASCAR.
That's a quote from him?
That's where I got it from.
Oh, interesting. It's kind of pessimistic, but I guess, that's...
so true, though.
Yeah. But, right, people are only good in their daily lives, right? Like, hey, how's it going? Let me hold the door for you. Yeah.
And the good you see, I think, is just coincidence for most people. People do what's easy. It's very sad.
Yeah. There's a lot of evidence for that. I'd like to think... Hear me out. I'd like to think that's not the case, but perhaps evidence would indicate otherwise.
If people could dump shit in a river versus spending money and or exerting themselves
just time
to do what's right, they won't.
It's the Homer Simpson thing.
Which is?
They're getting rid of all the donuts over at whatever. In the Simpsons movie, Homer's in line to like responsibly eliminate his pig waste. It's just like a silo full of pig shit, and he's like waiting in a line to get rid of it. And one of his buddies runs up and goes, "They're over at the donut. I forget what it's called. The donut place. They're giving away all the donuts. Like, go get some." He's like, and he's like, thought bubble pops into his head. Marge saying, "Don't you go dump that in the lake? Like, you go and you take care of it." And he's like, "Donuts, Marge," and he drives to the lake, and there's all these signs and protesters. Like saying, don't dump, you're a terrible person. And he's like running over all these things and ends up running over an old man, and he just dumps it in the lake and he tips it over the edge. Environmental collapse. And that's the plot.
So that's a decent representation of
what you're saying.
Behavior in America.
Right.
Unfortunately. Where are we in time?
It's been about an hour and 5 minutes, I think. Yeah.
Anything else we need to cover?
No, I think we need some better restaurants in Farmington Hills, but that's about it.
You ever go to Cortina's?
No, what's that?
Cafe Cortina, actually.
Where is it?
It's an Italian place on 10 Mile.
Oh no, I don't ever go down that far.
Oh my gosh. So it's just for reference.
Oh my gosh.
It's slightly over 2 miles south of here and 1 mile east.
It's true though. I don't ever go down that far, but
That far. So
down there. No, I literally never go past greens in my daily life. I have no need to.
it's 300 yards from greens.
Yeah. Why bother?
It's exactly the amount south as greens. Maybe not quite that far.
I like north. Just prefer to go north.
This place it's worth the 2 mile trip.
Cafe Cortina Italian
Cafe
place.
Cortina. Yeah, it's probably about the best Italian place in Mentor, Detroit. And,
Wow.
And back in it's won Restaurant of the Year, I think 3 times.
What?
Back, the magazine Our Detroit.
Yeah, hour.
There used to be a magazine called Detroit Monthly
Oh yeah.
that went out of business, and Our kind of took its spot after a few years of pent-up demand. And I think it got Our Detroit may have given it Restaurant of the Year once, and it got it 2 or 3 times in Monthly Detroit
Wow.
or
That's
Detroit
cool.
Monthly.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good. It's worth a 2 mile drive. It's really expensive, but it's very traditional. It's
Yeah.
most of the waiters speak Italian. It's it's nice.
Oh, como se dice, me too. I learned this. Forgot it though. I'll just say asporto, and I'll let you figure out what that means. But I'm an Italian-speaking waiter. It's great,
Okay.
and I work at a also critically acclaimed Italian restaurant.
Okay, we're gonna.
Oh, we're done. Sorry.
No, we're not. We're gonna digress here, and it might have been a Trump thing. Though, was he in Italy recently?
I don't know. I don't with Salvini. That guy. My gosh, I love watching this.
There was, oh my God, I think somebody was in Italy and something was said.
Was Trump in Italy lately?
And I was like, well, at least tell him you eat a baguette. I'm like, oh, it would have been, I could have knocked it out of the park with just a one-liner.
Oh, did I step on your one-liner?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm. It's funny in my head.
Oh, okay.
It's everybody's
good.
missing it. So what did you ask the 8-ball?
I said, was Trump in Italy lately? And he said, my answer is no.
Okay. God, what was it?
Sorry,
I
guys.
said, at least tell him you're going to eat a baguette with it. It was a great one-liner. I just can't remember the rest that made it funny.
Oh, yeah. So you remember the punchline, but not the...
Right. Not what set me up for it.
Oh, that's funny.
Right. Perhaps this is a good time to get off the air.
Yes. We love you guys, but it's time to go. It's kind of late out.
All right.
Late.
So this version, so podcast number 5, I think this is, and the first branded 8-ballin' is done. Do you have a salutation? Mine's over and out. Have you come up with something? Maybe it's just over and out.
I got to come up with something. Catch me next week.
All right. That's a wrap. Over and out. Thanks.